Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Carolyn and I am a body positive personal trainer and an online body image coach. So today we are going to be talking about something that I haven't really talked about much on any of my various social media platforms, at least not since I made the transition out of diet culture and into a more intuitive eating, health at every size, body positive perspective around health and fitness and wellness. And so that topic is meal prepping. So yes, today I'm going to be talking about meal prepping and specifically about sort of the more diet culture based history of what a lot of us understand meal prepping to be. And then I'm going to transition into the ways that we can still utilize the useful and helpful parts of meal planning and meal prepping, but in a way that has nothing to do with any of the awful stuff that diet culture is about. So if you're new to this channel, if this is the first video that you're watching from me, I definitely recommend that you go and check out some of my other videos, follow me on Instagram and the like. I post about body positivity, health at every size, intuitive eating, and so if you're here for weight loss tips, you're not going to find any, but I hope you decide to stick around anyway. Before we jump into it, I just want to mention that this video is brought to you by my Patreon page. If you haven't heard of Patreon, it's a platform for creators, of which I am one. So if you want to support me, if you like my content and just want to give back a little bit of the value that you have received from me and what I create, you can check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/CarolynVig. And when you go there and sign up to become a patron of any level, you can right away take advantage of a 4-part mini course on body acceptance. All right, so meal prep. If you have at all been involved in the world of dieting as it takes place on social media, I'm sure that you have heard the term meal prep. So basically meal prep just means meal preparation, aka making a meal. But the way that this term has been used in the last 10 years or so, I mean, probably longer than that, but it really kind of hit this peak in popularity, this idea of meal prepping in the context of dieting. I mean, at least in my life, it was the most prevalent around the years like 2014, 2015. And I'm sure there's still a bunch of stuff out there now on Pinterest, on Instagram, about meal prepping, essentially for weight loss. So on social media, meal prep is kind of put out there as this way of controlling your food intake, this way of really like tightly structuring and organizing what you eat so that you can stick to a meal plan, and a meal plan that is typically very restrictive, very specific, and doesn't maybe allow a lot of foods or whatever. So like I said, meal prep in this way of using the term was a really big part of my life around that 2014 to like 2016 time. So this would have been my last 2 years of college when I was in an undergraduate program for nutrition. And I was also starting to really get involved with the online communities surrounding fitness and nutrition because I knew that that was the career path that I would be going down. So of course, and I've talked about this before, but at this time, this was when I was engaging in the most disordered eating behaviors. I was very into the concepts of clean eating, dabbling in paleo, thinking about doing keto, but I never actually did. Yeah, so it was a time in my life, and I'm sure a lot of other people's lives too, of a lot of food rules, a lot of learning about all of the not scientifically based horrors of gluten and sugar and dairy and soy, and feeling like I needed to cut out all these foods. And alongside learning this information, I was also, starting out my career as a personal trainer. I was working at the university gym and then ended up going on to work as a personal trainer for my first like full-time job out of school. And when you work as a personal trainer, especially in just like a big box corporate gym, a lot of your coworkers are bodybuilders. Or at least this was my experience at the gym I was working at. It seemed like every single trainer and person who like worked at the front desk either used to be a bodybuilder, trained people to enter bodybuilding competitions, or was currently training to enter one. And this world of bodybuilding is where I think this diet culture version of meal prep kind of originated. People who were looking to diet and lose body fat and diet and workout for the purpose of losing body fat and attaining a, quote unquote perfect body, looked to the bodybuilding world for tips and strategies on how to do so, because bodybuilders literally dedicate giant portions of their daily time and energy and money to achieving a certain physique for the purpose of competition. Now, I have certain feelings on the world of bodybuilding, which I'm sure I'll make a video about in the future. But if you want some of my thoughts, I have a highlight on my Instagram page that you can go to just for a quick overview of my opinions on bodybuilding and whether or not I think people should be doing it. But anyway, in the bodybuilding world, diet has to be very regimented in order to, elicit the very dramatic but short-term changes to physique and aesthetics. So people who are bodybuilding, while they are prepping for a show, will be eating in a very, very particular way. It's going to be tightly controlled around macronutrients and calorie intake, and often involves eating a lot of the same foods every single day. So the bodybuilding community has built this practice around meal prep that looks a very particular way. And this way of meal prepping a few years ago got sort of absorbed into the mainstream of diet culture when it started showing up on places like Pinterest and Instagram. People who follow bodybuilders but just have an interest in weight loss, taking these very, very intense restrictive practices and talking about them as if they are normal and healthy for just non-bodybuilding individuals. So what does this look like? You probably have some idea of it, but basically, when I think back to when I was meal prepping or idolizing people who had these like perfect meal prep plans, I would think lots of little Tupperware containers of like 4 or 5 different meals that got repeated every single day. Let's see, like I was saying, I would think about very simple foods. So like chicken, rice, broccoli, hard-boiled eggs, oatmeal, peanut butter, just very, very simple foods that for some people were simple for a reason, like saving money or, trying to be economical about the way that they ate, especially because if they were in the bodybuilding world, paying for other things like coaches, gym memberships, supplements, those things can get really expensive. So cutting back on food cost is something that a lot of bodybuilders are interested in doing. But so yeah, the tiny Tupperware containers, the really simple food, a lot of tilapia for some reason, which I actually never ended up making for myself. I guess it's just kind of an inexpensive fish, and when you're desperate for variety and you don't want to just eat chicken all the time, any other protein source is going to be better than nothing. Protein powder baked goods were something that I remember seeing a lot of around this time, around 2015. People like making muffins and pancakes and different kinds of baked goods, but healthifying them by making protein powder the like base of it instead of flour. Because this was being used as, and still is being used as, a weight loss strategy and got co-opted from the bodybuilding world where food is so tightly controlled for the purpose of competition, there's a lot of an association between the idea of meal prepping and the idea of weighing, measuring, and counting your food. So when I think of meal prep, my next kind of association in my brain usually goes to, oh, somebody is on a macros plan. Oh, somebody is using a food scale to make sure that they portion out exactly the right number of grams of their chicken and rice. And, you know, it's pretty obvious, like what I'm about to say here, but that is all very problematic. Essentially, this style of meal prepping has its roots in diet culture. It is rife with disordered eating, and it really, the people who participate in it are really putting themselves at risk for all of the things that we talk about that are the dangers of restrictive dieting. Because, you know, you're not only just restricting your calorie intake or, you know, tightly counting and tracking your macros, which can become really obsessive, but you're limiting the number of types of foods that you're eating when you only eat, you know, 4 or 5 different foods over the course of a week. That puts you at risk for nutritional deficiencies. But most importantly, it's feeding that disordered relationship with food that so many people develop when they diet. So just like any other type of diet, whether it's, you know, keto or just calorie counting, or what else is popular these days? Intermittent fasting, or back in the day with low fat or Atkins or Weight Watchers or whatever. Any kind of diet that's for the purpose of weight loss puts the dieter at risk of developing a really disordered relationship with their food, with body, a really obsessive relationship with food that can cause a lot of harm to mental health as well as physical health. And this style of meal prepping, with all of the counting and the measuring and the eating the same things over and over again and not making room for variety or flavor, oh my God, you know, it's really playing into those disordered behaviors and is encouraging, even though it's on a pretty little graphic on Instagram, it's encouraging something really dangerous for a lot of the people who are going to try to do it. But I understand why someone would want to do this. First of all, it's a very visually appealing way to market dieting. You know, when you lay out all of those Tupperware containers and they have, you know, the chicken and the rice and the broccoli, and it's all in order, and it all just looks so organized and perfect and easy, and like, oh, I could totally do that. I don't have to actively restrict because all my meals are there and I just take it out and I just eat it, and look at this beautiful photo I took. It appeals to perfectionistic tendencies. It's visually just like nice to look at. It makes for good content for the people who are pushing and promoting this stuff. You know, you've got recipes, you can do time-lapse videos of yourself making all of your food on a Sunday. So I understand why it's appealing, but this way of doing the whole meal prep thing is just super not healthy and super not helpful, which is why a lot of people who are now making the switch over to, you know, intuitive eating and body positivity let go of a lot of the meal prepping strategies as they make that transition. That for a lot of people, recovering from diet culture and disordered eating also means letting go of the behaviors that they used while they were in that disordered diet culture place. And a lot of those behaviors have to do with meal prep. I myself was one of these people. When I decided, like, I was just done with having any kind of aesthetic goals or fat loss related fitness goals, I also decided that I was done with meal prep because honestly, it was super boring and I hated it. I like variety in my food. I like being able to eat intuitively and choose something different to eat for different meals every day. I don't want to eat the same thing every day. And plus, by the time it's Friday, that chicken you cooked on Sunday doesn't taste very good anymore. Not that it's necessarily gone bad if you store it correctly, but like, come on, who wants to eat 6-day-old food? Yuck, that's It's gross. But so I, like many people who embark on an intuitive eating journey and discover the body positive anti-diet movement, just completely discard everything that has to do with meal prep. The Tupperware, the meal plans, everything. But I am here today to reclaim meal prep because I don't believe that having some kind of structure to the way that you eat, being prepared, or doing things ahead of time to save time and money, I don't think diet culture should be able to own those things. I think that is really unfair to those of us who are trying to do the right thing for our bodies and minds by eating intuitively and stepping outside of the diet culture narratives that used to trap us. I think we deserve to be able to experience convenience and money saving and ease with decision making. Do you see what I'm saying here? So I'm going to explain which parts of meal prep I don't actually believe are problematic and why I think when, a person is feeling ready, they can start to incorporate some of this stuff back into their life in a way that actually serves their intuitive eating instead of serving diet culture. First of all, like I just said, planning your meals ahead of time and preparing foods ahead of time can be a huge time and money saver. Making yourself a meal from scratch every time you want to sit down and eat, that's not something all of us can do. I am in a fortunate enough position since I work from home that I am able to cook a lot of my meals from scratch, but even so, I don't always want to do that. Leftovers are a beautiful thing, and they can make it so much easier to make sure that you're actually feeding yourself enough, to make sure that you always have food available that you like to eat. And both of those things are so important when you're trying to eat intuitively. Intuitive eating doesn't have to mean that every time you're hungry, you go eat at a restaurant or you go to the grocery store and buy everything and go home and cook a meal that you eat right then and there. No, absolutely not. Intuitive eating just means that you're listening to your intuition about what you want to eat. And one of the best ways to make that possible, most often in the easiest and most least time consuming and most affordable way, is to make sure that you have available and on hand foods that you like to eat and that often will feel satisfying and nourishing to you. So going ahead and making big batches of foods that you like, or, recognizing that you're going to have a time crunch and that you're gonna make a couple of your lunches a couple days ahead to bring to work, that's not diet culture. That's just being prepared. That's setting yourself up for success in intuitive eating. So I want to redefine the word meal prep and also the word meal plan, because diet culture has completely appropriated both of those terms, and I think it's time that we take them back so that we can experience the benefits of being a prepared eater in a way that's intuitive instead of in a way that feeds the diet mentality. So first of all, meal prep. Meal prep does not actually mean little portions of measured food in Tupperware containers. It means preparing meals. So, how would preparing meals feel the easiest, most effortless, most enjoyable in your life? Maybe it does mean having 1 or 2 days a week where you make a couple of different recipes that you can then just reheat and consume for your meals for the rest of the week. If that sounds good to you, go for it. Maybe you don't really like eating leftovers that much, but you also want to save some time with cooking. So maybe there's certain ingredients that you can prep, but not actually have to make full meals before it's time to eat them. So maybe you know that you use onions a lot in your cooking and you like to have them diced. So maybe there's one day where you're going to prep your onions and prep some other vegetables. Make sure that things are cut, make sure that things are washed, maybe organized into little bags that you can throw into a pan when you are ready to cook it. That is all meal prep. And it has nothing to do with diet culture. So meal prep is not little Tupperwares of measured calorie controlled food. Meal prep is just preparing food ahead of time so it makes mealtime easier when it is time to eat. Now, what about the word meal plan? When we think about meal plan, we tend to think about a diet. We think about a macros plan. We think about a calorie plan or some kind of plan that's going to dictate how much and what types of foods we are allowed to eat. But what if a meal plan doesn't actually have anything to do with nutrition or food rules? What if a meal plan is just a plan you make for the meals that you want to make yourself for the next few days? What if meal planning could also be entirely intuitive and based on preferences and what you feel like eating? Let's say, for example, that you are like so many people and like to go do your grocery shopping on Sundays. It's not going to be very cost effective or time efficient to go to the grocery store without any kind of plan in mind. It's probably in your best interest to make some sort of plan about what foods you want to buy at the grocery store based on what meals you want to be cooking for the next few days. Now, those meals don't have to be paleo or vegan or follow any other type of restrictive food rules. It can just be food. It can be the food you like to eat, the food that feels nourishing and filling and satisfying to you. You're just planning a couple days in advance what you think you're gonna wanna have in that fridge when the time does come to eat. So a meal plan can be completely intuitive as well. It can leave room for flexibility where maybe one day you do make 2 recipes that you can keep in the fridge. And then when it comes time to eat, you have a couple things to choose from. Or maybe meal planning also involves keeping some frozen convenience meals in your freezer so that if you don't feel like anything that you planned a few days ago, you've always got a frozen pizza or one of those yummy Trader Joe's Indian food things waiting for you when you need and want it. Planning ahead, being prepared, and saving yourself time and money doesn't only have to happen in the context of diet culture. You are allowed to experience convenience and ease and peace around food when you are intuitive eating. And in fact, that's the whole point of intuitive eating, to make food a non-issue. When we're dieting, when we are obsessed with planning and preparing, not just the general concept of the meal we're going to eat, but every single bite we put into our mouths, it doesn't actually make anything easier. It makes it a lot more complicated, probably a lot more time consuming because we're always thinking about food. Food obsession is not healthy, but being prepared, always having foods you like on hand, and knowing that you can feel safe and secure with what you have planned for yourself that week, that'll make a lot of us feel better. So if you're with me, let's take back food prep, let's take back meal plans to the side of food freedom. Diet culture doesn't own those things, and if you want to use them because it will be helpful for your eating process and your intuitive eating journey, I say you should be able to. More power to you. All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching this video today. Like I said, meal planning and prep is not something that I've talked about in a while because I myself have associated it so much with diet culture up until recently. But I have also recently started to get back into a lot more batch cooking, a lot more mindful planning of what I'm buying at the grocery store, and I can only say that it has made my life so much better. I'm saving money, I'm feeling a lot less frantic around food. I'm actually thinking about food less and finding that I more often get to eat things that I love. So all in all, it's been a great experience for me, and I encourage you to go inward, ask yourself if this is something that may be helpful to you on your journey, and if you think you're ready to start planning and prepping your food in some intentional and mindful ways, I encourage you to give it a try. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching this video. Remember to go check out my Patreon, and if you do, in addition to that 4-part mini course on body acceptance, you will also find a new post with some of my favorite kind of recipes. I don't really write recipes, but they're sort of recipes of some of my favorite go-to meals that you can plan and prep ahead of time to help you with your busy schedule and intuitive eating journey. All right, everybody, have a great one, and I will see you in the next video.